The UES Leviathan dropped out of hyperspace like a metal mountain falling from the sky. Captain Jake Morrison felt his stomach twist as the massive ship slowed down from faster-than-light travel. He had made this jump hundreds of times during training, but this was different. This was real. "All systems normal, sir," said Commander Lisa Parker from her station. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. Everyone on the bridge knew what they were flying into. The Kepler 442 system was enemy territory. Jake walked to the main viewing screen. Stars filled the darkness ahead of them, and somewhere out there were the aliens who had been hunting Earthships for 3 years. The Zephyrian Collective, the Mentari Empire, and the hegemony of Sikhs had all made it clear that humans were not welcome in their galaxy. "Distance to the planet?" Jake asked. 12 million kilometers, sir," replied Lieutenant Tony Garcia from the navigation station. "We should reach orbit in 6 hours at current speed." Jake nodded. 6 hours to prepare for what might be the most important battle in human history. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was humanity's message to the galaxy. A message written in 2 kilometers of steel and enough weapons to crack a moon. "Sir, we're getting multiple contacts on long-range sensors," called out Ensign Kelly. Murphy from the sensor station. Her young face was pale but determined. "Looks like they were waiting for us." Jake moved to the tactical display. Red dots appeared on the screen, spreading out like a disease. 20 ships, 30, 50, more kept appearing as the sensors got a better look at the system. "They brought friends," Lisa said quietly. Jake studied the formation. The alien ships were moving to surround them, just like they had done to every other human vessel that had entered their space. But the Leviathan was not like those other ships. Those had been exploration vessels, science ships, diplomatic cruisers. Ships built for peace. The Leviathan was built for war. "Communications, open a channel to the lead ship," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir," came the reply from the communications officer. Jake took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Leviathan. We come seeking peaceful contact and trade relations. Please respond." For a long moment there was only static. Then a harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. The universal translator made the words understandable, but the tone was clear enough. "Human vessel, you have violated sovereign space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply." Jake looked around the bridge. Every officer was watching him, waiting for his decision. He thought about the other human ships that had tried to make contact. The crew of the research vessel Curiosity vaporized without warning. The diplomatic mission led by Ambassador Helen Cross, captured and never seen again. The merchant vessel New Horizons, which had simply vanished. "Sir?" Lisa asked quietly. Jake made his choice. "All stations, battle ready. Seal the ship." "Arm all." "Weapons." The bridge lighting changed to red as the ship prepared for combat. Jake felt the vibration through the deck as the massive guns rotated into position. The Leviathan carried weapons that no alien ship had ever seen. Weapons that turned physics itself into a tool of destruction. "Weapons ready, sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks from the weapons station. "All kinetic systems are online. Targets locked, sir," added Ensign Murphy. "I count 63 enemy vessels now," Jake nodded. 63 against 1. The aliens probably thought those were good odds. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The alien voice crackled over the speakers again. "Your time is up, human. Prepare to die." The first alien attack came as a wave of bright energy beams. Plasma bolts and laser bursts struck the Leviathan's shields, lighting up the darkness like a deadly fireworks show. The ship shook under the impact, but the shields held. "Shields at 80%, reported the damage control officer. "No hull breaches." Jake gripped the command chair. The aliens were using the same energy weapons they had always used. Weapons designed to drain shields slowly, to disable rather than destroy. They fought war like it was a game with rules. Humans had different rules. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "Target the largest ship first." The Leviathan's main gun spoke. But instead of energy beams, they fired something much more primitive and much more deadly. Tungsten rods, each one the size of a telephone pole, launched from magnetic rails at 20% the speed of light. The first rod hit the Zephyrian command cruiser dead center. The alien ship, designed to absorb and deflect energy weapons, had no defense against a solid object moving at relativistic speed. The cruiser simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. Silence fell over the alien fleet. Jake could imagine their confusion. Their most advanced ship, protected by shields that could stop any energy weapon, had been destroyed by what they would consider a primitive kinetic projectile. "Fire at will," Jake ordered. "All targets." The Leviathan's guns opened up in earnest. Tungsten rods flew through space like bullets from the hand of an angry god. Each impact was total destruction. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Their return fire became desperate and uncoordinated. Energy beams scattered across the Leviathan's hull, but the human ship kept firing. Ship after ship exploded as the kinetic projectiles tore through their hulls. "Sir, they're trying to retreat," reported Murphy. "Let them go," Jake said, "but keep firing until they're out of range." The battle lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, 41 alien ships had been destroyed. The remaining 22 were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. The Leviathan had not lost a single crew member. Jake stood in the silence that followed. Around him, his crew worked at their stations, but he could feel their amazement. They had done it. They had won. "Sir," said Lisa quietly, "we're receiving a transmission. It's not from the fleeing ships. Put it on screen." The image that appeared showed a massive space station in orbit around the system's main planet. The being on the screen was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. It wore elaborate robes that marked it as someone important. "Human vessel," the alien said, and Jake could hear the fear in its voice. "I am Administrator Velthic of the Kepler station. We wish to discuss terms." Jake smiled. 3 years ago, humans had been ignored by the galactic community. Their ships had been destroyed, their crews killed or captured. Earth had been treated like a primitive world not worth acknowledging. Now they wanted to talk. "Administrator," Jake said, "we're listening." As the Leviathan moved toward the planet, Jake knew that everything had changed. The galaxy had spent centuries building rules for warfare based on energy weapons and shields. Humanity had just shown them what happened when someone refused to play by those rules. Word of the battle would spread through the galaxy within hours. The message would be simple and clear. Earth was no longer asking for permission to join the galactic community. They were announcing their arrival, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news traveled faster than light itself across the galaxy. Within 6 hours of the battle at Kepler 442, every major civilization knew what had happened. The humans had arrived, and they had brought death with them. Admiral Susan Cole sat in her office at Earth Command, watching the reports flood in from across known space. Her weathered face showed no emotion, but inside she felt a mixture of pride and worry. The plan had worked better than anyone had hoped. Maybe too well. "Admiral," said her aide, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, "we're getting communications from 17 different star systems. Everyone wants to know what our intentions are." Susan nodded. She had expected this. For 3 years, Earth had been trying to make peaceful contact with the galaxy. Their ships had been destroyed, their diplomats imprisoned or killed. The galactic powers had treated humanity like insects to be stepped on. Now those same powers were afraid. "What about our other ships?" Susan asked. "Are they in position?" "Yes, ma'am. The USS Titan reached the Proxima system 2 hours ago. The USS Ragnarok is holding position at Volf 359, the USS Nemesis just dropped out of hyperspace at Ross 128. Susan smiled. The aliens thought the Leviathan was alone. They were wrong. Earth had been building warships for 3 years, ever since the first human vessel had been destroyed. Every ship was armed with the same kinetic weapons that had torn through the alien fleet. "Any word from Ambassador Mitchell?" Susan asked. Ryan checked his tablet. The Mentari Empire released her an hour ago. She's being escorted to a luxury transport with full diplomatic honors. They're calling it a correction of previous misunderstandings. Susan almost laughed. Ambassador Claire Mitchell had been thrown into a Mentari prison 3 months ago for the crime of requesting a meeting with their government. The aliens had called her a terrorist and a spy. Now she was being treated like visiting royalty. Patch me through to Captain Morrison, Susan ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Leviathan. Captain Jake Morrison looked tired but alert. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations while the massive ship orbited the Kepler 442 planet. "Admiral," Jake said, "good to see you. We've got quite a situation here, I can imagine." "What's the status?" "The locals are very eager to be helpful. Administrator Velthek has offered us full access to their trade routes, mining rights to 3 asteroid belts, and a permanent embassy on the planet, all free of charge." Susan raised an eyebrow. 3 months ago, they wouldn't even answer our messages. "Amazing what a few tungsten rods can do for diplomacy," Jake replied. "But Admiral, it's not just them. We're getting messages from all over the sector. Small colonies, independent traders, even some species I've never heard of. They all want protection from the big powers." Susan had expected this too. The galaxy was not a peaceful place. For centuries, strong civilizations had bullied and enslaved weaker ones. The Zephyrian Collective, the Mentari Empire, and the hegemony of Sikhs had built their power on the backs of smaller species, but now there was a new strong civilization. One that seemed to have different rules? "What kind of protection are they asking for?" Susan asked. "Everything. The Kaleri want us to stop Zephyrian slave raids. The Moth people need help with Mentari tax collectors. There's even a human colony at Tau Ceti that's been under hegemony occupation for 2 years. Susan felt anger rise in her chest. She had not known about the Tau Ceti colony. Earth's long-range communications were still limited, and news from the outer colonies was slow to arrive. "How many humans are at Tau Ceti?" "About 3,000, mostly farmers and miners. The hegemony has been using them as forced labor." Susan made her decision. "Send the Ragnarok. I want those people free within 48 hours. "Yes, ma'am. What about the others asking for help?" Susan looked at the reports on her desk. 17 star systems were asking for Earth's protection. Behind each request was a story of oppression, slavery, or worse. The galaxy's bullies had been having their way for too long. "We'll help who we can," Susan said, "but we need to be smart about this. We can't fight everyone at once." After ending the call, Susan walked to the observation deck. Earth hung in space below, blue and green and beautiful. 3 years ago, it had been a world under threat. Now it was the center of a growing empire, but Susan knew the real fight was just beginning. Across the galaxy, the major powers were reacting to Earth's sudden appearance. The Zephyrian Collective had called an emergency session of their war council. The Mentari Empire was moving fleets to defensive positions. The hegemony of Sikhs was trying to figure out how human weapons worked. None of them wanted to admit that. Their centuries of dominance might be over. On the planet Zephyr Prime, war leader HFY studied the battle reports from Kepler 442. The humans had destroyed 41 ships without losing a single one. Their weapons were unlike anything in known space. "How is this possible?" HFY asked his science advisor. "Our ships have the best shields in the galaxy." "The humans don't use energy weapons," the advisor replied. "They fire solid objects at incredible speeds. Our shields are designed to stop plasma and lasers, not kinetic projectiles." HFY growled. The Zephyrian military was built around energy weapons. Every ship, every defense system, every battle tactic assumed that enemies would use similar technology. "Can we adapt our shields?" "It would take years to redesign them. And even then, stopping a relativistic projectile requires enormous amounts of energy. More than our ships can generate." HFY stared at the tactical display. The humans had only 4 ships in known space, but they controlled key systems across 3 sectors. Small alien civilizations were already asking for Earth's protection. Prepare. A message to the Mentari and the hegemony, HFY ordered. We need to meet. On the Mentari homeworld, Empress Zaramel was having similar thoughts. The human weapons were a threat to everything her empire had built. But more dangerous than the weapons was what they represented. They're not trying to conquer us, she told her advisors. They're trying to replace us. What do you mean, Empress? The humans could have destroyed the Kepler station. Instead, they're offering protection to anyone who asks. They're positioning themselves as the galaxy's protectors. Zaramel had ruled the Mentari Empire for 40 years. She understood power and how to use it. The humans were not just militarily superior. They were offering something that her empire and the others had never provided: protection without conquest. If the smaller species start looking to Earth for leadership, we lose everything, she said. Our tribute worlds, our trade routes, our influence, all of it. Meanwhile, on Ross 128, the USS Nemesis was discovering exactly what the major powers had been doing to smaller civilizations. Captain Angela Davis walked through the ruins of what had once been a thriving colony. How many? She asked Lieutenant Pete Johnson. 2 million dead, ma'am. The hegemony wanted their mineral rights. When the colonists refused to hand them over, they bombed the cities from orbit. Angela felt sick. The attack had happened 6 months ago, but the bodies were still in the streets. The hegemony had not even bothered to clean up after themselves. Any survivors? About 50,000 scattered across the outer settlements. They're afraid to come back to the cities. Angela activated her communicator, Nemesis to Earth Command. We're going to need relief supplies and medical teams, lots of them. As night fell across the galaxy, the balance of power continued to shift. The major civilizations were learning that their old ways of doing business were no longer acceptable. Earth's ships patrolled space lanes. That had been controlled by bullies for centuries, but the biggest change was not military. It was hope. For the first time in generations, the galaxy's weak and oppressed had someone to turn to. Someone who seemed to actually care about justice. The humans had landed, and the galaxy was screaming. But for many, those screams were not of fear. They were screams of joy. The meeting took place in the shadow of a dead star. 3 massive fleets gathered in the Void Nebula, far from the shipping lanes and trade routes where human ships now patrolled. The Zephyrian Collective, the Mentari Empire, and the hegemony of Sikhs had agreed to meet for the first time in over a century. War leader HFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the other alien vessels take position. The Mentari ships were sleek and silver, built for speed and precision. The hegemony vessels were dark and angular, designed to inspire fear. His own Zephyrian fleet was a mix of battle-tested cruisers and experimental weapon platforms. The humans must be stopped, HFY said to his assembled commanders. They threaten everything we have built. On the Mentari flagship, Empress Zaramel was saying the same thing to her advisors. Our tributary worlds are asking Earth for protection. Our trade monopolies are being challenged. If we allow this to continue, our empire will collapse. The hegemony representative, Supreme Commander Thale Zen, cared nothing for trade or tribute. His people were warriors, pure and simple. The humans had insulted them by freeing the Tau Ceti colony without even asking permission. That could not be forgiven. We have 3,000 ships, Thale Zen transmitted to the other fleets. The humans have 4. Numbers will overwhelm them. But even as the alien leaders planned their war, human intelligence was watching. The USS Phantom, Earth's first stealth ship, drifted invisible in the nebula. Captain Ben Williams monitored the alien communications while his sister Katie, now a major in Earth's Marine Corps, prepared boarding teams on 3 different ships. They're really doing this, Ben said quietly. 3,000 ships. Admiral. Cole needs to know, Katie replied. How long before they move? Hard to say. They're still arguing about who gets to command the fleet. The alien alliance was not built on trust. Each civilization wanted to lead the attack, and none wanted to risk their best ships in the first wave. The humans had proven they could destroy. anything sent against them. While the aliens argued, Admiral Susan Cole was preparing Earth's response. She stood in the war room at Earth Command, surrounded by tactical displays showing human positions across the galaxy. 4 battleships were not enough to defend everything humanity had claimed to protect. "We need more time," she told her staff. "The shipyards are working around the clock, but our next battleship won't be ready for 6 months." "What about the orbital defense platforms?" asked General Mike Thompson, head of Earth's military forces. "They're designed to protect Earth, not fight battles in deep space. We need mobile units." Susan studied the tactical display. The aliens had chosen their meeting place well. The Void Nebula was far from any human patrol route. If they attacked from there, they could hit multiple systems before Earth's ships could respond. "We need to hit them first," she decided, "before they can organize their attack." On the planet Kepler 442, Captain Jake Morrison was dealing with a different kind of problem. The local population was celebrating humanity's victory, but other species were arriving daily, asking for protection from their own oppressors. "Captain," said Administrator Velthak, "we have a situation. The Kaleri refugees are fighting with the Moth people over living space. Both groups want to settle in the same valley." Jake rubbed his temples. Leading a battleship in combat was easier than managing refugee populations. What do they need? Food, shelter, medical care. The Kaleri haven't eaten in 3 days. The Moth people are injured from Mentari attacks. And there are more ships arriving every hour. Jake looked out at the planet's surface. What had been a quiet agricultural world was becoming a massive refugee camp. Ships from dozens of species filled the orbital space, all seeking Earth's protection. "We'll figure it out," Jake said. "Set up temporary shelters in the northern continent. Separate the groups until we can find permanent solutions." But Jake knew the real problem was not on the planet. It was in space, where the galaxy's bullies were preparing to strike back. The Alien Alliance finally agreed on a plan. They would attack 7 human-controlled systems simultaneously, overwhelming Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. The Zephyrians would lead the assault on the Kepler system. The Mentari would hit the growing refugee centers. The hegemony would target Earth's supply lines. "We strike in 3 days, Kethvoar announced. "The humans will learn that this galaxy belongs to its rightful rulers." But the aliens had made a critical mistake. They assumed that humans would fight like they did, with honor and formal tactics. They expected battles with clear rules and predictable outcomes. They were about to learn that humans had very different ideas about warfare. Admiral Cole received the intelligence report from the Phantom while she was reviewing production schedules for new battleships. 3,000 enemy ships, moving toward 7 different targets. It was the largest fleet action in galactic history. "They want to end this quickly," she told her staff. "They think numbers will win." "Ma'am, with respect, they might be right," said General Thompson. "We have 4 ships against 3,000. Even with our weapons advantage, that's long odds." Susan smiled. "They're thinking like generals. We need to think like humans." She activated the communication system. "Get me all our ship captains." Emergency conference. Within an hour, the commanders of humanity's 4 battleships were connected by secure quantum communication. Captain Morrison on the Leviathan, Captain Davis on the Nemesis, Captain Rodriguez on the Titan, and Captain Smith on the Ragnarok. "The aliens are coming," Susan told them. 3,000 ships, 7 targets. They want to overwhelm us with. "Numbers, orders, Admiral?" asked Captain Davis. "We don't fight their battle, we fight our own. Each of you will receive specific targeting data. We're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We're trying to destroy their ability to fight as a coordinated force." The plan was simple and brutal. Instead of defending fixed positions, the human ships would attack the alien fleet's support vessels. Supply ships, command centers, communication relays. The aliens could bring 3,000 warships, but they needed twice that many support vessels to keep them fighting. "Target their logistics," Susan explained. "Cut their supply lines. Destroy their command ships. Make them blind and hungry." "Captain, Morrison understood immediately. Hit and run tactics. Make them chase us while we take apart their infrastructure. Exactly, and remember, we're not just fighting for territory. We're fighting for every species that has asked for our protection. The refugees on Kepler 442, the freed slaves at Tau Ceti, the colonies that trusted us to keep them safe. As the conference ended, each captain began preparing their crews. The humans were outnumbered 700 to 1, but they had advantages the aliens did not understand. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and crewed by people who understood that sometimes the only way to win was to break all the rules on the Leviathan. Jake Morrison walked through the ship's corridors, talking to his crew. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Lisa Parker was pushing the reactors beyond their normal limits. In the weapons bay, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was loading every kinetic projectile I had. "Are we ready?" Jake asked. "As ready as we can be, Captain," Lisa replied. "The ship will hold together." "The question is whether we can hold together," Jake nodded. In 3 days, the largest fleet in galactic history would attack 7 human positions. The aliens expected a conventional battle, with lines of ships exchanging fire until one side surrendered. Instead, they were about to experience what humans called total war, a kind of fighting where victory mattered more than honor, where survival justified any tactic, and where the rules of engagement were written by whoever was willing to go the furthest. The galaxy was about to learn that humans, when cornered, did not fight fair, they fought to win. The battle for Proxima Centauri began at 0600 hours ship time. Major Katie Williams watched from the bridge of the transport ship as her Marines prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. Below them, the alien command station orbited. The system's main planet like a metal moon, bristling with weapons and shields. 2 minutes to drop zone, called the pilot. Enemy fighters closing fast. Katie checked her armor one last time. The Syndicate had built their command station to be impregnable. Thick armor, multiple shield generators, and enough firepower to destroy a small fleet, but they had made one mistake. They had built it to fight ships, not soldiers. "Listen up, Marines," Katie said over the comm. "Our job is simple. Get inside that station and shut down their command network. Every second we delay, more of our people die." Above them, her brother Ben Williams was fighting his own battle. The USS Defiance, Earth's newest battleship, was outnumbered 50-1, but Captain Williams was not trying to win a fair fight. He was trying to survive long enough for his sister to complete her mission. "All power to forward shields," Ben ordered. "Take us in close." The Defiance charged straight at the enemy. Formation, her kinetic cannons firing continuously. Alien ships exploded as tungsten rods tore through their hulls, but more kept coming. The Syndicate had brought their best ships and most experienced commanders. "Shields down to 60%, reported the damage control officer. "Hull breaches." On decks 7 and 12, Ben gritted his teeth. The ship was taking a beating, but they were almost in position. "Launch all drop pods, get our Marines to that station." 20 small pods shot out from the Defiance's launch bays. Each one carried 5 Marines in full combat armor. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but the pods were too small and too fast. Most of them made it through. Katie felt her stomach drop as her pod slammed into the station's hull. The cutting charge blew a hole in the metal plating and she led her team inside. The corridor was dark and filled with strange alien architecture, but the mission was clear. "Team Alpha, secure the power core," she ordered. "Team Beta, find the communication center. Team Charlie, with me. We're going after the command bridge." The Syndicate soldiers were waiting for them. The aliens were tall and heavily armored, with weapons that fired superheated plasma, but they had never fought humans before. They expected their enemies to take cover and exchange fire from fixed positions. Instead, the Marines moved like ghosts through the station's corridors. They used the alien architecture against the defenders, climbing walls and crawling through ventilation systems. When they did fight, it was with a ferocity that shocked the aliens. "Contact front," called Sergeant Danny Murphy as plasma bolts filled the air around them. 6 hostiles, heavy weapons. Katie did not order her team to take cover. Instead, she led them in a direct assault. The Marines used their smaller size and superior mobility to get close to the alien defenders. At close range, human weapons were devastating. The battle moved deeper into the station. Katie's team fought their way through 3 levels of defenders, leaving a trail of destruction behind them. The aliens were brave and well-trained, but they were not prepared for human tactics. "Major," came a voice over the comm. "This is Team Alpha. We've reached the power core, but it's heavily defended." "How many?" Katie asked while reloading her weapon. "Looks like 30, maybe 40 hostiles. They've got the whole area locked down." Katie made a decision that would have horrified any alien commander. "Plant charges on the power core. If we can't take it, we'll destroy it." "Ma'am, that will blow up half the station." "Then we better work fast. All teams, converge on the command bridge. We have 10 minutes before this place goes up." Outside the station, Captain Ben Williams was running out of options. The Defiance was surrounded by enemy ships, her shields were failing, and her ammunition was running low. But he had one advantage the aliens did not expect. "Damage control. How much structural integrity do we have left?" he asked. "Maybe 60%, sir." "Why?" Ben smiled grimly. "Because I'm going to ram that command ship." The bridge crew stared at him in shock. Ramming was not a tactic used in civilized warfare. Ships were expensive and took years to build. No sane commander would sacrifice his vessel for a single target, but Ben Williams was not thinking like a civilized commander. He was thinking like a human whose sister was trapped inside an enemy station with a bomb counting down. "All crew to escape pods," he ordered. "Set the ship for automatic pilot. We're going to give them something to remember us by." The Defiance turned toward the largest syndicate ship, her engines at full power. The alien commander tried to move out of the way, but the human ship was too fast. The collision sent shockwaves through both vessels. Inside the command station, Katie felt the explosions as the 2 ships destroyed each other. The lights flickered and emergency alarms started wailing. She had 5 minutes to reach the command bridge. "Move, move, move," she shouted to her Marines. "This whole place is coming apart." They fought their way through the final corridor as the station shook around them. The alien defenders were in chaos, trying to deal with the explosions and the human assault at the same time. Katie's team reached the command bridge. Just as the power core charges exploded, the blast tore through the station's lower levels, destroying the main power grid and communication systems. Emergency lighting flickered on, but it was too late. The Syndicate's command network was dead. "All alien ships, this is Major Katie Williams of the Earth Marines," she broadcast from the captured bridge. "Your command center is under our control. Your fleet is cut off from Central Command. Surrender now, or we will destroy this station with everyone on it." The threat worked. Without their command network, the Syndicate fleet was blind and confused. Individual ship captains began surrendering rather than continue fighting without coordination. Across the galaxy, similar battles were taking place. The aliens had expected to overwhelm human forces with superior numbers, but they had not counted on human willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. At Volf 359, Captain Rodriguez of the USS Titan used his ship's wreckage as a weapon, detonating the reactor core inside an enemy formation. At Ross 128, Captain Smith of the USS Ragnarok fought a running battle through an asteroid field, using the rocks as cover and weapons. The largest battle was at Kepler 442, where Captain Morrison and the Leviathan faced down over 800 enemy ships. But Morrison had learned from the previous battles. He did not try to fight all of them at once. "Target their supply ships first," he ordered. "No fuel, no fight." The Leviathan moved through the enemy formation like a shark among fish, ignoring the warships and focusing on the vulnerable support vessels. Each kinetic round destroyed a tanker or supply ship, leaving the alien warships stranded without fuel or ammunition. "Sir, the enemy fleet is breaking up," reported Commander Lisa Parker. "They're retreating to their home systems." Morrison nodded. The aliens had learned a hard lesson. Numbers meant nothing if you could not coordinate your forces. And coordination was impossible when the enemy was willing to destroy your command structure at any cost. Dr. Helen Carter, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, had been studying the captured command station. Her discovery would change everything. "Admiral," she reported to Susan Cole, "I've found something important. The aliens' command system is based on psychic communication. They use brain-to-brain contact to coordinate their fleets. Can we disrupt it? Better than that. I think we can use it against them. If we can generate the right electromagnetic frequency, we can overload their psychic network." "It would be like shouting in their minds," Susan smiled. "The aliens thought they understood human warfare. They were wrong. Humans did not just fight with weapons and ships. They fought with ideas, with science, and with a willingness to use any advantage they could find. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but the tide had turned. The aliens had brought their best ships and most experienced commanders. They had outnumbered the humans by hundreds to one, and they had lost. 6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy was a different place. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the UES Leviathan, looking out at the stars that now belonged to a new order. Below him, the planet New Haven bustled with activity as humans and aliens worked together to build something that had never existed before. "Admiral," said Captain Angela Davis, joining him at the viewing window, "the council meeting is about to begin." Jake nodded. The Galactic Council had been reformed under human oversight, and today they would vote on the new laws that would govern interstellar relations. Laws that protected the weak instead of empowering the strong. They walked together to the council chambers, a massive room that had been built inside a converted space station. Representatives from over 200 species sat in curved rows, all facing the central platform where Jake would soon speak. "Nervous?" Angela asked. "Always," Jake replied. "Fighting battles is easier than making peace." The chamber fell silent as Jake stepped up to the podium. In the front rows sat the former rulers of the galaxy. War leader Kethvior of the Zephyrian Collective looked older than his years. Empress Zaramel of the Mentari Empire sat stiffly in her chair, her face showing no emotion. Supreme Commander Thale Zen of the Hegemony was not present. His people had refused to attend any meeting where they were not in charge. Behind them sat hundreds of representatives from species that had been forgotten or oppressed for centuries. The Kaleri, freed from Zephyrian slavery. The Moth people, no longer terrorized by Mentari tax collectors. The colonists from Ross 128, rebuilt with human help after the Hegemony's massacre. 6 months ago, Jake began, this galaxy was ruled by fear. The strong took what they wanted from the weak. Entire civilizations lived in terror of their neighbors. The time is over. He activated the holographic display that showed the current state of galactic affairs. Green dots marked systems under Earth's protection. Red dots showed areas still controlled by the old powers. Yellow dots indicated neutral zones where trade and diplomacy were slowly replacing warfare. "Today we vote on the Terran Accords," Jake continued. "These laws will make it illegal to attack civilian populations, to enslave other species, or to claim territory by force. Any civilization that breaks these laws will face the combined response of the Terran Protectorate." Kethvior stood up, his scales shimmering with anger. "You humans speak of law, but you rule through strength just as we did. Your ships patrol our borders, your weapons threaten our worlds. How are you different from us?" Jake had expected this question. "The difference is simple. We protect instead of exploit, we defend instead of attack, and most importantly, we don't force anyone to join us." He gestured to the assembly. "Every species here chose to ask for our protection. We didn't conquer them. They came to us because they were tired of being victims." Empress Zaramel spoke next, her voice carrying the authority of generations of rulers. "And what happens when you decide we are no longer useful? What happens when Earth grows tired of playing protector?" Jake smiled. "Then you'll be free to make your own choices. The Terran Protectorate is not an empire, it's a promise. a promise that bullies will not be allowed to prey on the innocent. Commander Steve Martinez, Earth's permanent ambassador to the Council, stood up from his seat in the human delegation. The Admiral is correct. Earth has no desire to rule the galaxy. We want to trade with you, learn from you, and explore the universe together. But we will not allow the strong to terrorize the weak. The debate continued for hours. The old powers argued that human rule was no different from their own. The smaller species spoke passionately about their hope for a future without fear. Representatives from neutral worlds worried about being caught between Earth and the traditional powers. Finally, it was time to vote. The chamber fell silent as each delegation registered their decision. The results appeared on the main display. 847 votes in favor of the Terran Accords, 73 votes against, 45 abstentions. The galaxy had chosen change. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Jake was approached by Dr. Helen Carter, who had been working on new technologies to enforce the peace. "Admiral," she said, "I have an update on the psychic communication disruptor. We've successfully tested it on volunteer subjects from 12 different species. It can shut down their military command networks without causing permanent damage." "Good," Jake replied. "But I hope we never have to use it." Helen nodded. "There's something else. We've been studying the technological differences between species. Most aliens develop energy weapons first because they're easier to control. But kinetic weapons are actually more efficient once you solve the guidance problem." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that humans might not be the only species capable of this kind of warfare. If others figure out our techniques, they might be able to challenge us." Jake considered this. Earth's advantage was not permanent. Eventually, other species would develop their own kinetic weapons, their own unconventional tactics. The galaxy would adapt to human methods, just as humans had adapted to alien technology. "Then we better make sure the peace lasts long enough for everyone to benefit from it," he said. On the bridge of the Leviathan, Captain Lisa Parker was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. The old trade routes were reopening as smaller species began to feel safe enough to venture into space. New colonies were being established on worlds that had been abandoned during the wars. "Captain," said Lieutenant Tony Garcia, "we're receiving a distress call from the Outer Rim. Pirates are attacking a refugee convoy?" Lisa sighed. Peace was never perfect. There would always be someone trying to take advantage of the weak. "Set course for the Outer Rim, maximum speed." The Leviathan turned away from New Haven and accelerated toward the edge of known space. Even in the new galaxy, Earth ships would be needed to keep the peace. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Susan Cole was planning for the future. The shipyards were working around the clock to build more vessels. Not just warships, but exploration craft, medical ships, and cargo haulers. Earth was preparing for a galaxy where trade and cooperation were more important than conquest. "Admiral," said General Mike Thompson, "the recruitment numbers are in. We have volunteers from 43 different species wanting to join Earth's fleet." Susan smiled. "Good, we're going to need them." She looked out at the stars, thinking about all the changes that had come since the Leviathan first dropped out of hyperspace at Kepler 442. Earth had not sought to become a galactic power, but when the galaxy's bullies had pushed too far, humanity had pushed back. Now they faced a new challenge, building something better than what they had destroyed. It would not be easy. There would be setbacks, conflicts, and moments when the old ways seemed simpler, but for the first time in galactic history, the weak had protectors who cared more about justice than profit. Children could grow up without fear of slave raiders. Colonies could develop without worrying about tribute collectors. Scientists could explore the universe instead of building better weapons. The battleship from Earth had landed, and the galaxy had screamed. But those screams had become something new, the voice of hope, speaking in 1,000 languages, declaring that the age of terror was over. In the depths of space, new human ships continued their patrols, watching over trade routes and refugee convoys. Their crews came from dozens of worlds, united by a simple belief that strength should protect weakness, not exploit it. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be new challenges. But for now, for the first time in centuries, the stars belonged to those who dreamed of peace instead of conquest. In humanity, reluctant rulers of a galaxy they had never asked to lead stood guard over that dream.